at noon. That's Wednesday at noon on WLIB here in Los Angeles, in New York, and we're on in Los Angeles and KBLA in Chicago on and some other station.
Is it different coming to talk to Howard than it is doing other venues? Or?
Yeah, it's exciting. I like talking to Howard. I've been on a show four or five times, something like that. And, I never know quite what I'm going to get, and that's great.
All right, I love Al Franken, even though on the first page of his book he insults me. But I don't care. I love the book, and I've always enjoyed him on Saturday Night Live with his various characters and all the things. And there he is, Al Franken. Look at him.
Yeah, the real guy.
Looking all energized with his new radio show. All excited. How you doing, Al?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Looks like we just got you out of bed.
Yeah. I'll get used to it. Well, we're not on till noon to 3, and we start tomorrow. And
is it the big kickoff for the? This is. Do you own a piece of the network?
I don't even know. I think I do.
Yeah. When you say you don't know, though, this is a hard thing to get put together. I mean, your own radio network.
Yeah, it's not my own radio network, but I worked with the people putting I was the crucial.
You're the linchpin.
Linchpin.
Yeah. Well, because you're the guy. You see, it's a difficult thing to do a liberal radio network. They've tried like different guys at being like the answer to Rush Limbaugh and stuff. You see, you will succeed because you're funny. You see, then that's the difference.
That's what I keep telling them.
No, you'll succeed. If you do it just like your book, if you do your show like you did your book, you will win. Because it's funny. I mean, the stuff you do is funny. When you go over to this, the different, like confronting Bill O'Reilly and confronting Sean Hannity. Fox News has got to infuriate you. I mean, it's got to infuriate anyone.
Well, we're calling the show the O'Franken Factor.
That's already funny.
Just debate him.
Will he sue you over that?
Oh, gosh, I hope so.
Because he sued you once already.
He did, yeah. Story behind that is we went to this book expo in L.A., and which was last May, and it's to promote
your new book,
new books, and to all these booksellers in L.A., and Molly Ivins and Bill and I were on a panel, and Molly was pushing her book, Bushwhacked, and Bill was pushing his book, Living with Herpes. Very, very, very good book. Because Howard, when you write from experience, it's always good. And he didn't like the fact that I had written a book called Lies and Lying Liars Who Tell Them a Fair and Balanced Look at the Right. And
Brilliant book.
Thank you.
It really is.
Thank you. And when you said that, the sales spiked. We had a day where I'm going, what's happening?
Why am I getting attention?
Oh, yes, what's happening? Oh, Howard says that. So he got mad at me, and Molly spoke first, he spoke second. He got on and goes, I don't call people liars. I don't do that. That's not what I do. Evidently, he hadn't actually seen his own show.
Right.
So I go on next, and I felt like I was obligated to explain to him why he was on a book, on the cover of a book that had the words Lies and Lying Liars. So I did. I read, just from Nexus searches, his words, proving that he was not only a liar, but kind of a
What are some of the things he says? What are some of the things he says that you would point up that shows that Bill O'Reilly is a liar?
One of the things I really tracked was he kept saying whenever he would be challenged about his show Inside Edition, which was a crappy, tabloid
show, yeah.
He'd say, "Oh yeah, tabloid show. Who says so? We won 2 Peabodys." And someone would go like, "Well, come on, it was a tabloid show. Oh, you want us to give our Peabodys back? Is that what you want?" So only the most prestigious award in journalism. You want us to give our Peabodys back? And then he did this like several times.
Right.
So, and I see this on C-SPAN, and I just go like, Inside Edition never won a Peabody, And so I check like the Peabody website.
Yeah.
And I call the Peabody people, and I say, "Did Inside Edition ever win a Peabody?" And they actually laughed, and then said no. And then I called Bill, and I said, "Hi, Bill, it's Al Franken." He called me back, which was very, very nice.
Right.
And I said, "Hi, Bill, it's Al." I said, "I noticed on C-SPAN you said that you had won two Peabodys? And he said, we did. I go, well, yeah, you should probably check that with the Peabody people because they don't think you did. And he went, I'll call you back. And then he calls me back in about 10 minutes, and he said, it was a poke.
The Polk Award.
The Polk, which is a prestigious award, except that they didn't win it when he was there, by the way. They won it after a year after he left.
He didn't win.
Yeah. So I said, a Polk. He goes, yeah, it's just as prestigious as the Peabody.
But if you'd won something, wouldn't you know what it was?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't win anything.
That's what I'm saying.
Ron's over there.
Yeah, I'm over here, Al.
Okay, no, he didn't win anything.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he says it was just as prestigious as the Peabody, and I said, well, then there are two most prestigious awards in journalism.
Yeah, how can you have
right?
two?
Goes, Al, listen, come out. I said, don't you think it's odd that you got it wrong about a journalism award? That's ironic. And
Did he change his argument to, what do you want me to do, give the Polk Award back?
No, he didn't. He just said, okay, go ahead, go after me, Al. So I said, that sounds like a good idea.
But how does he not know that he didn't win a Peabody Award? I mean, how does he not know that?
Oh, he's just a liar.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I'll give you another. This whole Peabody thing has a long, long story to it, and I won't necessarily go through it all. All I can say is that once it was shown that he hadn't won, he kept clinging to this idea that he had never said he didn't want to be one. But he says things like, he said to the New York Observer that no one grew up lower on the economic ladder than I did. And he grew up in a middle-class home in Westbury. His dad was an accountant, and, this would surprise.
Did he go to private school?
Yeah.
So how is he?
Well, yeah, but
because he wants to be this blue-collar guy who just made it all himself,
Hardly made it on
he's worked hard, he has, but, I mean, that's what bugs me about Republicans who believe, or these conservatives who believe that I did it all myself.
Yeah. Pick myself up by the bootstraps, and that's why it kind of kills you when they don't understand why black people might need a break, because they grew up in an economically depressed area, didn't get a break to go to college or anything, but they somehow think they did it all on their own. Meanwhile, their parents paid for college. They had the best
private
education.
School education.
Well, forgetting that. I'm talking about just a middle class guy who didn't have private school education. All of us in this country are standing on the shoulders of people who stood on the shoulders, of people who stood on the shoulders, of people who stood on the shoulders, on and on.
Right.
We live in the greatest country in the world.
Right.
And part of the price of that is paying taxes. Republicans have these principles, like one of their principles is that the estate tax punishes the most productive people in our society, the children of the very wealthy.
Rich, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. What's wrong with punishing them? I want to punish the children of the wealthy, quite frankly. I don't need them having so many breaks. I went to buy a house. I remember when I first got into radio, and I'd finally saved enough money for my first house. I couldn't afford one because all of the trust fund kids...
You've been priced out.
I was priced out. I had to compete with them. They actually have money.
Right.
They have done nothing.
No matter how much money you can come up with a set amount of money, they can always come up with more because they can get it from mommy and daddy.
You said a great thing in your book about how Republicans love the country and they love their party, just like Democrats love the country and love their party. But Republicans love their party like a 4-year-old loves their mother.
Yeah. It's like if mommy can do no wrong, if someone says something about your mommy, you get mad.
Right.
Democrats love their country like adults, and we want to be honest. We want our loved ones to do as well as possible and to do good.
Well, I find that with like the Rush Limbaughs of the world, it's like the guy is a knee-jerk reactionary. In other words, you say anything, it's always the Republican answer. He's a lackey for the Republican Party. In other words, wouldn't it be more interesting to occasionally disagree with the president?
To occasionally think.
Wouldn't that be more interesting?
Yeah, I think when we're opposite Rush from my show, the old Franken Factor.
Did you have a field day when Rush, of course, admitted that he hasn't really kind of admitted it, but
that he's a drug addict.
That he's a drug addict.
We are going to try to do our show drug free. No,
Right.
we don't know if it's ever been done.
Not
As
here.
far as you know, there's no show that has been
No,
drug-free.
we don't know. But, I noticed that you just did an ad for, I think, a car body shop or something like that.
Right.
And so I know that you get paid more to do premium ads if you read the ads.
That's right.
So I've decided to just do them all as Rush.
You will read every ad the way Rush does.
Well, this is... unless I get sick of it, which I will. But
No, that's good.
That's
good.
It's sort of like this. Friends, I spent so much money on drugs. And not just the drugs themselves, my friends, but on bribing my maid. That I am always looking for a bargain. And that's why I love the new 12-pack
Right.
from New Grape Soda.
You're onto something. You see, humor
like
will
that.
make you win. This is so it's a head-to-head competition. Now you're not on as big radio stations as Rush, right? In other words, you're just starting out your network.
We're just starting out. We're on WLIB here, 1190, and we're on Chicago and in L.A., and I got those numbers here.
You got all kinds of. Are you feeling pressure with this thing?
No.
No. Do you ever run into a Rush Limbaugh? Do you ever see him?
You know what? He's very reclusive, and I will give him.
Well, if you had his problems, you'd be alone too.
Well, I guess so.
But I mean, you called your first book, Rush Limbaugh's a big fat idiot,
Yeah.
and
Right.
that had to bother him somewhat.
Evidently it did, but I think I saved his life.
Why do you say that?
Well, he lost a lot of weight.
After you put that in the title.
I halted his slide into food-assisted suicide.
See, we credit ourselves with the Anna Nicole Smith weight loss, and because we
Tough
told
love.
her she was fat, and
Yeah.
And you did the same kind of tough
Yeah,
love.
but now I hope it wasn't. That's what the OxyContin was.
Yeah,
Right, he
yeah.
went from one to the other.
You might have driven it to him. Hey, well, what about you hate the Fox network, obviously, and,
Yeah.
and because it's so biased that when someone starts quoting from the Fox network, you know that it's biased toward the right wing and the religious right kind of party line.
Yeah.
But then weren't you once on there? I remember in the book you were saying you were in the green room somewhere, and Sean Hannity came by and he started yelling at you.
Yeah. Well,
These guys hate you.
yeah, they hate me. They hate me. They sued me.
Right.
Yeah, they sued me. And one thing, this is interesting. After this dust up with O'Reilly at the book expo, because you're asking how this suit came about, he started screaming at me. He said, "Shut up! You've had your 35 minutes. Shut up!" Which was interesting because I'd only spoken for 20 minutes.
Right.
Proves that he can't even tell you to shut up without lying. And then the Monday after, this is on a Friday, he goes on his radio show,
Right.
and he says, if this had happened in the Old West, we would have had to have had a shootout, which I thought was interesting. Mm-hmm. Even more interesting was that he guaranteed that he would have won this shootout 150 years ago, which is odd because I don't know if you know this, Howard, but during the summers I do the whole State Fair quick draw circuit.
I didn't know you were a quick
and-
draw McDraw. I didn't know that.
I'm number 3 in the country. And
So even that was a lie. You
Yeah.
would win the. You would win the. Would you have a duel with him? Would you fight him? For example, a lot of radio shows challenge each other to
I would,
fight
in the
actual
Old
fist
West,
fights.
I would have.
You would have. Right?
Yes, but he guaranteed he'd win.
Yeah.
And this is a quote. He said, "I would have shot him between the head."
Between the head. He gets very worked up about you and can't think straight.
Yes, but then we got this letter saying they were going to sue us if I kept his picture on and fair and balanced, the words fair and balanced in the subtitle. And my publisher was a little upset. And I told her, and this is something you need to remember, and everyone should remember, that I said, don't worry, from my 30 years of experience, in America, satire is protected speech, even if the object of the satire doesn't get it.
Yeah, that's an important point. That's right. Well,
So we won. I mean,
and you won in court. I was proud of you that you stood up and you said, "Hey, listen, there's nothing wrong with me using this in the title, and I'm perfectly, it's perfectly legal."
Well, not only that, they had no case. This is hilarious that they sued us.
Do you ever feel alone in this whole battle? I mean, seriously. I mean, you kind of like it's almost like the odds are stacked against you. It's like there's so many goddamn guys all on the radio with the conservative viewpoint, It's frightening. I mean,
Well,
it's like,
this is what we're trying to do. At least get a foothold in this terrain because, there's different kinds of talk radio. You do one thing, but the political talk radio, the specifically, explicitly political talk radio, is almost entirely 100% conservative.
And Al, what was your beef with me? I bought your book excitedly.
That was a joke.
I went to. I was like,
joke.
Yeah,
I'll
but
read it.
like
I wasn't
McCarthy.
sure he was serious.
We checked the law, but we didn't get the joke. So
I didn't even care that you insulted me in the beginning of the book. It was so brilliant. I promoted it anyway.
This is a joke.
I'm
As the
considering
great
suing.
Joseph Welch said to Joe McCarthy, "Have you no sense of decency, sir? At long last, have you no sense of decency? Unlike Senator McCarthy and his intellectual heirs, Ann Coulter and Howard Stern, I do have a sense of decency." This is a style I write in which is just dumb.
Well, no,
the
it's
dumb
not. It's
thing.
hardly dumb. Now you're going to have to argue with conservatives, I imagine, on the radio
I hope
show.
to have conservatives who will come on and argue with me.
Yeah, we got a guy here, Scott DePace, our director,
Yeah.
who loves. He gets everything
We'll give you some
from
practice.
He gets everything from Rush Limbaugh.
Oh, good.
The other day, he was yelling in the halls, and I quote, this is Scott DePace, our director, that the drilling of the Alaska pipeline and the drilling of Alaska in general is good for the environment.
Oh, good for the environment.
Good for the environment because the wildlife up
Now
there
you sound
likes,
like O'Reilly.
likes the heat produced from the oil pipeline.
Oh, stop it.
Said. That
Yes,
is
you did.
So wrong.
Hey, you said it. What did you
That's not
say
what I
then?
said.
Are
When
you for...
I absolutely
Kerry
am
is
for drilling in Alaska. Yes.
You're for the drilling
Yes.
of Alaska,
Yes, and so
despite
should
the
you.
fact that so many environmentalists have said that this is
Howard.
the last bastion of
How did you get here this morning?
I got here
In a limousine.
That's right.
Isn't that a little excessive?
But you're saying that you are for the drilling of Alaska.
A place I will never see in my lifetime. Yes. Why drill in Texas where you actually might be?
Now, Al, what are you?
Some place like the
Al,
moon.
Kerry is a guy who I happen to admire,
Right.
and is against the destruction of the environment, and we're putting a lot of money into new fuel sources. Why do you laugh?
Well,
Everyone is. You can't stop the economy while you do it, though. You got to
No,
keep going.
it's not gonna, it's hardly going to
listen,
stop the economy.
You can keep the economy going if you go into fuel efficiency. The problem is that we have an administration that just knows oil. We have a president who
Thank
was...
God.
We had a president who was in the oil business, couldn't find oil in Texas.
3 bankrupt companies.
Yeah,
See, that's funny.
but he kept being bankrolled by, his daddy's friends.
Right.
Cheney, who ran an oil services company, Halliburton, which seems to be doing quite well.
All of a
Yeah.
sudden,
Yeah.
their future is... That doesn't disturb you at all, does it?
The
But you
Halliburton
can
connection
build-
with Cheney,
The Halliburton connection, the fact
No.
that no one else is
You know that
getting in on the rebuilding of Iraq.
Clinton only used Halliburton as well. Okay.
Clinton only used
No, he didn't
Halliburton.
only use
for
Halliburton.
the Bosnia-Serbia.
Now, how do you answer
thing,
that,
yes,
Al?
Okay.
Used Halliburton.
Halliburton, through Kellogg, Brown and Root, does do construction of bases, and I on my USO tours have gone to a base in Kosovo that was built by Kellogg, Brown and Root, and they do that, but he didn't give them blind bids. I mean, in other
and
words,
Bush
he
did.
made them bid. Yeah.
He gave him a blind bid. He just said, "Okay, you're the best," and that's it.
Yes.
Yes, they just
That's what he did.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
exactly
that's what he did. I
well,
mean, they
that's
did that to Bechtel and to Halliburton. They got the first contracts.
How many other companies could have done what Halliburton did?
Other companies can do it. No, I just came back from.
But you would say
at
they're the
Christmas.
best.
Huh?
You would say that they are the best.
I don't know about that, but when I was I was just in Kuwait,
You don't know it
Iraq.
either.
I was just.
What do you know about Halliburton? That you would
No,
say
I know
they're the
what- I
best.
know
You
what
know
I
that
hear.
Dick Cheney
You
thinks
know
they're
what
the
you
best.
hear
I know what I
from?
hear.
Well, I was
Dick
in.
Cheney does not have a connection with Halliburton.
Do you have a
anymore.
problem
Yes, he
with...
does. Yes, he does. He continues to get money from Halliburton, and he also has stock options for Halliburton.
He had to get rid of his stock.
No, he did. He got rid of his stock. He didn't get rid of his stock options. So he has an interest in
See,
that.
Scott, now suddenly you have somebody
Yeah,
who knows
really
the
knows.
answers.
Scott, what are we talking
But
about?
wait a second.
Halliburton? I
Wait,
don't
you
care.
just made a statement that Halliburton...
Yeah.
All right,
the best.
Is the best. A, you wouldn't even know if
No,
it's the best. B, you just made a statement that Dick Cheney got rid of
I
his
asked
stock
him whether
options,
he thought
and Al
he was
Franken
best.
just told you that he still has stock options. Everything you've said is wrong.
That's not true. Play the tape back. I
Some-
said he
some
gets
of the
stock.
stuff he said is wrong.
He said stock options.
not
They're two
everything.
different things.
You said he had no connection to Halliburton anymore. Stop it.
Scott, you have just entered a no-spin zone. This is the Franken factor.
Well, we call it the zero spin zone. We don't want to.
Yeah.
So, Al, you're
Travel
trying.
on.
is this the problem? You answer this guy's doubts,
right?
And he's still like a true Republican.
He's the 4-year-old.
He's the 4-year-old. I love Mommy no matter what she does.
Well, this happens.
Mommy beats me, and I love her.
This happens a lot, which is that it just takes a while. And what happens is that the Rushes and the Hannitys and these guys are so much what people listen to.
Well, DePace gets all his information from Limbaugh.
That's right.
Well, that's what he's heard when he says,
listen to about a half-hour a day,
And it's pretty much all your info.
And what we do on the show is, I have a friend from high school who's a ditto head.
Right.
And we just play him every day a couple of things that Rush said just aren't true.
Right. That's it.
And then he tries to defend
Why
them,
your book is brilliant. Why your book is brilliant is you take these guys' statements and you show the lies.
So everything in there is just true? Everything that you
in my book,
yeah, he did research.
No, I made a couple. I'll tell you what. I did make a couple mistakes, all of which I got from British intelligence. For example, on page 197, I say that Sean Hannity lived up Newt Gingrich's ass
right
from 1994 to 1998.
Right.
I got that from British intelligence.
Right.
Turns out
he didn't live up there.
Well, no, he did, but he only took residence up there in early January 95.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So that was embarrassing.
All right, let's see. DePace says that the large deficit is good for the economy and will create jobs in the long run.
You know what's funny? Where do you get your facts?
From Jason. That's what you told him.
Never in my life.
Can I ask you a question?
I said it's not enough to worry about as long as it's a low portion to the GDP. And that's if it's in the 2 to 4% range, that's okay.
Well, that's not crazy. But
because it's sustainable, you can take care of it.
Yeah, but it's not. It's getting unsustainable.
Let me ask you, where did it come from?
Well, listen.
Well, let me tell you one thing though. But these tax cuts. First of all, we have never had tax cuts in a time of war. This is the first president to put in tax cuts at the time of war. Even this president got it. If you read Suskind's book on Paul O'Neill, there's a moment after 9/11 where they're considering the second wave of tax cuts, most of which go to the top 1%, and the president of the United States says, "Haven't we done this already? Didn't we give big tax cuts?"
And thank God it worked.
It hasn't worked.
It has worked.
It has not worked.
Our economy is booming right now.
We are. You know, what part of the words "jobless economy"?
The jobs are a lagging
recovery,
indicator. Jobs will come next. Jobs will come next.
Yeah. The point is, they keep saying
not
every
like
year.
Kerry going 10 million new jobs by his plan. Which
well,
is
wait a minute. They said 2.6 million new jobs this February, and then immediately backed away from it. And now are saying they'll create 1 million new jobs, some of which will be even in this country.
But you see, guys like DePace refuse to listen to this. Whenever there's a backpedal, they don't want to hear it. The president said he was going to have 3 million new jobs. Where are they?
But that's a
so
prediction.
He shouldn't have said it, right?
It's a prediction.
So what's wrong with Kerry making a prediction?
Well, every year,
but why not say 50 billion jobs? I mean, where's this 10 million?
Well, where's the 3 million jobs?
He didn't give us 1 million.
One's a little higher than
the guy in office now promises 3 million jobs. Where are they? Kerry's not in office.
The point is, this will be the first president. This will be the first president since Hoover not to create one new net job. Let me finish. Not to create one new net job since Hoover. Now, if you add the two Bushes together, Bush 1, Bush 2, over 7 years of their two presidencies, they have not created one new net job. Numbers do not lie. If you extrapolate from that, if the Bushes had run this country from its very inception to the present day, not one American would have ever worked. We'd all be hunter-gatherers.
So you're telling me the fact that there was no recession and there was no war and there was no 9/11, none of this had anything to do with the jobs?
What?
Okay, exactly. I didn't think you could understand that. How much simpler can I put it?
There is a war.
Yeah.
It was a recession, and there are no new jobs. So I'm not quite sure if I
That is the
you.
reason for the jobs falling. That is the reason now they're going to come back. Their jobs are growing now, but they're not up to where they should be.
We've lost about 2.5 million jobs under this president.
And most of those were at the beginning
most of
when
these
we had a
tax
recession and we had this.
But if you wanted to do a stimulative tax cut, you wouldn't have done the kind of tax cut that this president has done, which is a tax cut that most of which is in the out years. And this is what you would do is a quick stimulus, and you would do a stimulus that would help people at the bottom. People who need to spend the money.
People at the bottom don't create jobs.
The people, yes, they do, by buying things.
Okay, that does help things.
But he forgets about that.
The rich people do. Why discriminate against the rich people?
The rich people have not been investing in things. The rich people don't need it.
So Howard shouldn't have got his big tax cut then?
Yeah, Howard shouldn't have gotten his big tax cut. Neither should I. Well, he shouldn't.
Let me tell you something. During Clinton, I didn't see my taxes go up through the roof any more than I see Bush.
Listen, during Clinton raised taxes.
It's true.
Making more money. I mean,
no, I'm talking about the ratio of taxes.
The rate is less now for you.
Yes,
by
it is
1
now.
or 2%.
But during Clinton in '93 raised the top rate on the top 1%. Every Republican said this is going to cause a recession. It passed without one Republican vote. It led to 8 years of an expanded economy. The idea
and a huge surplus.
Hold on. Wait, so he did that his first year, you're saying?
Yes.
His first year, and then 8 years of an... Okay, go ahead.
Oh, can't argue with that?
You got me.
All right. So, Al, you're ready for this radio show, I can see. You're
well,
debating.
You know what he has done that most liberals who were trying to do radio before were not doing? He's on the offensive. Yeah. Most liberals on radio were always in a defensive position. They were always screaming at the right in reaction to what they were saying. He's on the offensive. He's leading the attack.
Peter, you're on the air. Go ahead.
6 months will be on the defense.
How you doing? Al, is it not true that the DNC helps support your radio show?
No.
You're full of it. And what about your little coke problem? You pick on Rush Limbaugh with the OxyContin.
You have a coke
problem? I have a coke problem?
Oh, yeah, you're going to tell me you don't do coke, right? Put a lie detector on it. Put a lie detector on it. Tell me about your past coke problem.
Okay, first of all...
Oh, what,
Wait,
put a lie detector on it.
Let him answer.
Let me answer. I think what you're referring to is during the 70s. From 1975 to 1980.
Oh, yeah, not 1995?
Well, let him talk.
No, I haven't done coke since...
Yeah, so yesterday?
Oh,
yesterday.
Oh, you didn't say yesterday.
You didn't
say yesterday. No, let me, caller.
2000, buddy. I'm an economist.
What?
What year did the recession start? Bill Clinton was still in office.
No, it started in March of 2001.
2000.
Wrong.
Why don't you look at your numbers? I'm an economist.
I can. It started in March of 2001.
Can we get back to the coke
thing?
thing?
Smalley, give me some advice.
Oh, all right, go ahead. I had to hang up on him because I can't hear your answer. What was the question?
You can hang up on him, right?
Yes.
Okay, because I got to learn radio from you. I got to learn.
You got to learn to be rude.
You can definitely hang up on him.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Here's the thing.
Like Bush, Al hasn't had coke for 25 years. Okay.
Yeah. And I didn't do it while I was serving or not serving in the Air National Guard. From 1975 to 1980, I worked on a show called Saturday Night Live. There were people doing cocaine around there. And every once in a while, on Tuesday nights, when we were writing the show, I would do a line or two of coke so that I could stay awake to make sure other people didn't do too much coke.
Right. You were in charge. You were in charge of those people.
Oh, yeah.
I used to say, there was one thing I used to say because there was a lot of rumors about drug use there, and people would come up to me and I'd go, and this was very convincing. I always go like, you can't do a show like Saturday Night Live and do drugs. And they go like, hey, that makes a lot of sense. And of course the opposite was true.
Doesn't it infuriate you in a way that our president will not say that he got special privileges during the Vietnam War? In other words, there's no shame in that. A lot of people tried to get out of the draft. He was able to get out of the war because his father was a very wealthy man, politically connected man.
He was a congressman.
He was a congressman.
The Bushes were very well connected in Texas.
Why won't he admit that?
Because he doesn't have to. I mean, everyone knows it.
But people ask him about it, and he won't talk about it.
He said, I served my time. What I love is all this thing about, whether he went AWOL, whether he was there or not. I remember that period. I'm sure you do.
Yep.
And what it was, I mean, he was in a Champaign unit of the National Guard. Now, there are plenty of National Guardsmen over there now.
Right.
But then the whole purpose of this was for rich kids not to have to go to Vietnam.
That's right.
So the idea that they were going like, Where's Bush? We really need him. That wasn't. They didn't.
So,
they didn't need Bush. So it wasn't like they were missing him. They didn't want him to be there.
They didn't need him there.
So why wasn't this an issue for you with Clinton? This guy ran away to England or something, right, to get out of the war.
Well, he didn't run away to England. He was a Rhodes Scholar.
Oh, okay.
He was in school.
Oh, come on. That's bull.
What do you mean that's bull? He was in school. What's he not admitting to?
He avoided going into the...
Of course he did.
Yeah.
So did Bush.
So that's not an issue? Wasn't an issue?
No, because it's honest. To say that you got in the National Guard because your father didn't help you is a lie. His father helped him, and he went there. He didn't go there to serve. He went to get out of the draft. He says, I served my country.
The proof is in what he's actually done. He supports
It's a matter of honesty.
He's always supported the military.
Exactly.
Anybody can fight but him.
How can you sit and make religious...
There is a certain hypocrisy in saying, I support the military, but when my time came, I didn't. But, I understand what you're saying about Clinton, but Clinton was pretty honest about it.
But wait a second. Are we running against Clinton here? Is Bush still running against Clinton?
The point is you have to compare against something.
Compare against a new guy, Kerry.
Let's compare him against Kerry.
Yeah.
Kerry.
Yeah.
Now, Kerry...
Yeah, there's a good comparison. Tell me about the guy who's running for president now. What did he do during Vietnam?
Well, he won a Silver Star,
he was there for
won
4
a
months.
Bronze Star, and he won 3 Purple Hearts.
He was there for 4 months.
You go for 4 months. Let me see you go. Let me see you set foot in the jungle for 4 months.
Can you tell me how he won a Silver Star?
I can tell you.
Let me hear you.
Something at a gunboat, and he got out and ran on the shore, and I don't know, something like that.
He got shot.
Very well researched. Wonderfully.
I think Rush Limbaugh told him that.
Yeah.
He was there about as long as George Bush was absent.
Right.
This is what he did.
But then he came back to protest the whole thing.
That's right. And that makes me even prouder of the guy.
The guy had balls. I mean, this is what he did. They were going. He was on a swift boat. He was a swift boat commander, and they were going up. I think it was the Mekong, and there was a Narrows. And they would get ambushed there routinely, and guys would get shot and get killed. And so he made a plan, which was one day they were getting ambushed, and he just ordered his guys, and they turned the boat toward shore. They went right toward them. I don't know if you know this, but these swift boats have a 50-millimeter gun on top of the pilot house. And so they start shooting at these Viet Cong who are on the shore, shooting them. The Viet Cong freak out, start running. They kill these guys, and there was a Cong with a grenade launcher who's going to shoot them. And Kerry shot the guy, saving the lives of a couple guys in his unit. And Kerry told me that he didn't know whether he was going to get court-martialed for this move or whether he'd get decorated, but he got a Silver Star.
Yeah, because actually it was against their policy, right, at the time. But when did you speak?
Well, there was no policy. There was no...
No, against the training,
you can't attack.
No, against the training.
No, it wasn't against the training. It was just a maneuver that hadn't been done before. And by the way, after that... None of the swift boats were attacked from that point. And I wrote this piece in the book called Operation Chicken Hawk, in which I had Bush and Cheney and Ashcroft and Bill O'Reilly and Clarence Thomas serving on his swift boat. And I wrote that with the assistance of a guy named Wade Sanders, who was another swift boat commander, who said that Kerry was revered among these guys, and it was partly because of that. Because after he did that, the Cong stopped doing that. So he not only saved the lives of his unit,
saved tons of them.
Well, he made life a lot less dangerous for the guys.
Whatever. Has he supported the military since with his voting?
Absolutely.
He has. And what the Bush...
Wait. Is that what you heard or what you know? Did Rush tell you that, or do you know what he did, how his votes went?
From multiple people.
Oh,
no, you have.
Yeah, well, you know what you've heard.
And Bill O'Reilly.
I'll tell you what you've heard.
Yeah.
What you've heard is the talking points, which is that he voted against 13 weapon systems, and
he voted against $87 billion for Iraq, right?
Yes, this is what he did. In that vote, he voted first for it, and I'll tell you why. He wanted that $87 billion paid for by people like me and Howard, people in the top 1%. He said, I will vote for this if it comes out of the tax cuts. I actually want this to be paid for. And then he voted against it because it was 87-12. I'm sure that if it was 50-50, he would have voted for it. But this was about...
But how can you possibly at that point vote against it? I mean...
Because he knew it would pass.
You've got to support the troops no matter what it takes.
Well, he knew that it would pass, so he knew that the troops would be getting those $87 billion. I mean...
So he told you that when you were talking to him?
No, that's what he has said publicly. And you won't hear that. Now, when they talk about the weapons systems that he voted against, and they cite 13, like the Apache helicopter and the Bradley tank and all these systems, it is in one vote. It's in a 1995 appropriations bill that, by the way, John McCain voted against him, prisoner of war, against that vote, against that bill. This is one appropriations bill in which Congress was trying to pass a bill for $9 billion more than the Pentagon was asking for. This is because of pork. Congress was trying to pass pork.
Then I agree with that vote.
Okay, well, you would agree with that vote. But then what the White House does in their ads is go, John Kerry voted against the Apache, the M1, the B1, the B2.
And it was a responsible vote.
And he voted, by the way, for those systems in other bills when they were brought up.
So you're telling me, if John Kerry's the next president rather than Bush and another war has to happen, you're just as confident that he'll do a good job that Bush will?
I'm more confident because I'm confident that he will not have the world against us.
I think he would have built a coalition.
He would have built a coalition.
What more must we have done? We went to the United Nations tons of times. We went across.
Maybe George Bush doesn't know how to talk to people from other countries.
Lead. No, at some point you've got to lead.
You know how you lead? You know how you lead?
France and Germany were on the payroll of Iraq, and there's no way they were ever going to come around.
You know how you lead? By being credible. You don't say that there's no doubt that there are weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and then there turns out not to be.
No, you go in there saying there might be, but we want to do it anyway.
You don't say I definitely know where they are.
You say we have inspectors there now, and I thought that was a great achievement by the Bush administration and the Democratic Congress. The Democratic Congress voted for the resolution to allow this president to use force if he wanted to, because that was the only way they could go to the UN. They go to the UN votes for the resolution to tell Iraq that you got to let the inspectors in or we are invading.
Of course, because it's the only way you could pressure Iraq.
And again.
No. Hans Blix came back and said there was no weapons of mass destruction.
All he had to do was say, here's where I destroyed them, here's where they were, they're gone, that was it. But no, instead he kept playing cat and mouse, and we're not going to take it.
They were gradually opening it up. They were opening it up. They were opening it up, and they didn't have anything.
They didn't have anything.
And meanwhile, we were getting
the records. Where was the proof? That's all he had to do.
They handed over 1,200 pages of proof, which turns out now, as they go through it, was the proof.
Yeah, nobody
here's the thing, and we were lied
not
to.
Agree to that.
We were lied to. We were lied to, unfortunately, by Colin Powell, a man I respected tremendously. I remember the moment. By the way, I was for the war. I was for the war.
So was I.
So why did Bush do it?
And I remember that Colin Powell speech in front of the UN. It was very conclusive.
So you really believe he did it to avenge his father?
He did it for all kinds of reasons. He was surrounded by ideologues who have been wanting to attack Iraq. They wanted to attack Iraq the moment they got into office.
Why, just to have fun?
No, because you want to know why? It's a complicated thing, but they wanted to take over this. First of all, it has a lot of oil, and we need oil.
But you don't think that's accurate?
Now we're going to take oil? What, are we going to steal their oil now?
No, we have no access. We had no access to the oil in Iraq.
Well, then that's an important issue, then.
All right, look, I got to end this.
First you scoff at it, and now say it's an important issue.
Yeah, let me tell you, he's all over the place.
Turnaround.
All right, Scott, listen.
You're saying they did it for oil.
I give your show 1 year.
Oh, well, yes, we need the oil.
1 year.
All right, Scott.
Please, you'll be a daily listener.
You give his show 1 year.
1 year.
All right.
Well.
Oh, I love it. But did you see that?
Kind.
You got
that was
him.
kind.
I give your hair 3 months.
There's no hair left.
But that is what I love. He got him. Right. He beat him on every argument, and he still resists.
You know what it is? You are a die-hard Rush Limbaugh fan.
Listen, no, it's not a Rush Limbaugh fan. I am a Republican.
But why can't you just be open-minded to everything?
I am very open-minded.
I voted for Republican candidates. I'm not a Democrat or Republican.
Means you're in the middle somewhere.
But I know that Bush is the lackey of a religious right. I know that he's against abortion. He says I'm not smart enough to decide whether I should have an abortion or not. He knows that he believes in Jesus and that he believes in not separating church from state.
I told you my abortion view is different than Republicans, right?
He believes he will sign the bill that will stop this show. He will make sure that he will make sure that stem cell research is no longer performed in this country because he's worried about fetuses.
I wish that everyone...
Go ahead, vote for him. Get out of my face. You make me sick. And where's your hair?
I wish everyone...
And he's against gay marriage. Who would care in his right mind whether a gay gets married?
He's against gay marriage, but evidently has no problem with terrorists getting married.
Can I make one final
And what did he do right after 9/11? Tell me what was his first action after 9/11? Get the Bin Laden family out of America. Who cares?
I'm sure that was his idea.
Whose idea? Oh, so he has no idea.
I wish that everyone were Republican and then we could just fight whether it's the religious right Republicans or the non-religious.
Well, you can't have it both ways, honey.
Well,
go back to your room and direct me and make me look good. Make sure you shoot me from the right side.
Yeah, I'll make sure Al looks green.
You might not fare too well, Al. That's all
Al,
right.
I love having you here. All right, Al, I'm looking forward to your radio show. I wish you a lot of luck with it. The Peabody Award-winning Al Franken. Who,
not
won
the Poke.
3 for Saturday Night Live. Not the Poke. Not the Peabody.
No, we did one. Actually, we won one for Saturday Night Live. And you know what happens when you win a Peabody? You do know it.
Right.
They tell you?
And you don't confuse it with another
No, you're
award.
very aware of it.
And
it's
your
like
book
a big
is
deal.
And your book is brilliant. And,
Thank you.
And that's a great accomplishment. All right, Al Franken, everyone will be back right after these words.
Al, how'd everything go?
Terrible. No, it was great.
No, what happened with you and our E-director?
Oh, he was fine. He was very typical of arguments that I have with Republicans. They lose the argument because they don't know anything, but then they go on to something else they don't know. And then they just keep, there's a point at which sometimes like I have friends like that, and then you can persuade them over a certain amount of time. And it's not, it's fine. Different people have different sort of ideological set. Drilling in the Anwar isn't the dumbest idea in the world. It is a little bit like selling grandma's silver, but the idea that it's good for the animals because it generates heat, it's like kind of a bad idea. But it's, he had a sort of typical, when he was proved wrong, he'd get frustrated and move on to something else he thought was wrong. It was I've been in those arguments before.
Right,
but it was fun.
So do you think you put him in his place?
I did, but he doesn't know it.
All right, Al, so you had a good time on the show?
I really did, and Howard was great.
Thanks for coming down. Hopefully we'll see you again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, man.
How are you, man?
That was fun.
So you really want to do this 5 days a week?
Yeah. Yeah. That was fun talking to you.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, call in sometime.
All right.
We'll have that's a great level
Slot
of
me
discussion.
an hour.
Yeah, because call in because it's great having someone like you really believes in what you believe but doesn't know much.
As opposed to you, who knows too much and doesn't believe in it.
I believe in a lot, man.
Now, what advice would you give to someone like our director who doesn't take, no for an answer or anything like that?
I would ask him to read my book and to actually try to do some soul searching and thinking and read some things like there's a great James Fallows article in the Atlantic Monthly from January, February, which is about, let's say you were for the war in Iraq, and let's say you didn't mind that we didn't have a coalition. Fallows writes a piece about how Cheney and Wolfowitz and Rumsfeld willfully ignored all the planning that was done for post-invasion Iraq. And this was planning that was done by the State Department and by the Army War College and by the CIA that really could have prevented a lot of the chaos and really could have saved a lot of lives, and I'm talking about the lives of our troops. And I would ask him to really take seriously his role as a citizen and to spend a little bit more time exploring some of the things that, to open up his reading a little bit, and then from that, see the world a little differently. And I think that he's a smart guy, and I think he'd become a more educated Republican. And I've sat next to Republicans on planes, when I do these corporate gigs, I fly first class. So I sit next to Republicans. And there's a lot of Republicans who are very disillusioned with this president for one reason or another, for the huge deficit, for the way he seems to